trying this new thing where I'm sitting a little bit further away from the camera, where I'm just like not like my whole head isn't taking up your screen. So drop a comment down below if you like this better, or if you like me to get really close. If you like to feel like you're inches away from my face, let me know. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Big City B. I'm B for those of you who are just joining for the first time, and thank you for just joining for the first time. Today is my 10th episode. Woo! 10 weeks we've been doing these book reviews, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been super awesome and supportive and has been watching my videos. Please leave a comment down below with books that you want to see reviewed. I'm trying to find new books to add while also staying up on books that are to date or are being talked about right now. I know I'm a little bit behind, but I'm going to be slowly working up to more current books. For today's review, I'm going to be reviewing My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. Oh, I'm really hoping I said her name correctly. I looked it up a billion times, but I'm sure I messed it up, so I'm sorry. Let's get started on some of the basics for this book. The genre for this book is going to be thriller, and then we do have a few trigger warnings, so check in the description below. You all know the drill by now. Check in the description below to see what those trigger warnings are. Here's your summary. When Coraday's dinner is interrupted by a distressing call from her sister, she knows what's expected of her. Bleach, rubber gloves, nerves of steel, and a strong stomach. This will be the third boyfriend that was dispatched in self-defense, and the third mess that her lethal little sister has left Coraday to clear away. She should probably go to the police for the good of the menfolk of Lagos, Nigeria. But she loves her sister, and as they say, family always comes first. Until, that is, her sister starts dating the doctor where Coraday works as a nurse. But to save one would mean sacrificing the other. Alrighty, on to the characters of this book. For main characters, I have Coraday, Ayoola, and Tade. For track 2, we have Muhtar, and for track 3, I've included Femi. Let's just jump right into what I liked about this book. The first thing that I liked about this book was how fast of a read it is. The chapters are all pretty short, and the book itself is only about 220 pages depending on what format you read it in. For e-reader, I think it was around 240, 245, but my friends who had read the book with just a hardcover or a hard copy said that it was around 220 pages, which is really short. So it just zooms on by. It's really quick. The second thing that I liked about this book was the use of poetry throughout the book, whether that was Femi's poetry that we see throughout the story, or even just the poetry in the titles of the chapters. I thought it was very interesting. Once I had started noticing that the chapter titles had a sort of poetry, to go back and just reread all of the chapter titles, and I thought it was really lovely. They're all pretty poetic, and then they definitely are like an obscure hint to what the chapter is going to be containing. The third thing that I liked about this book was the duality of the older sister versus the younger sister, and the question of how much is the older sister responsible for the younger sister, and at what point does it start to cross a line of, oh, maybe now I should be letting my younger sister take control or responsibility. I loved reading about that struggle, which is really just Coraday's struggle throughout the book, because Ayoola is not thinking about that at all. I mean, I think she kind of is, but in a manipulative way, whereas Coraday is thinking about it more on a mature level. Let's go on to things that I didn't like about this book. The first thing that I didn't like was that it wasn't really a thriller. There was no point in the book where I was holding my breath and eagerly turning the page to see what happened next, or I had to put the book down because I was so overwhelmed at what had happened within the past few pages. None of that happened for me. I was just easily and leisurely able to go through the book. As I came to a part, I was like, oh, but I kept going. It wasn't really a gripping thriller for me. The second thing that I didn't like is a spoiler, so let's go ahead and throw in that spoiler slide. So I I didn't like that Korede ended up choosing Ayula's side instead of siding with Tade. Throughout the whole book, we see Korede as being a really down-to-earth, reasonable person who is already on the fence of whether she should go along with Ayula's killing sprees, if she really even believes Ayula when she says they're in self-defense. And so when she decided that she would continue to side with Ayula instead of siding with Tade, the first person who has survived her sister's attacks, I felt it was out of character. I understand the point that Oyinkan was trying to make. I'm really sorry if I'm butchering your name, which was that family comes first, especially with all the trials and tribulations that Korede, Ayula, and their mother went through with their father. But I just feel like this was Korede's out. I just felt like this was Korede's chance to side with Tade and get out of this negative, manipulative, toxic kind of family relationship that she was in. Although yes, she would have had to abandon Ayula and her mother, she would have had a deeper friend in Tade, and I feel like she also had the friend of Muhtar, so there would have been ways for her to get out and leave and not feel so isolated, which I think is an issue that anyone would have if they were going to leave their family because they're serial killers. I also think that she should have just sided with Tade, not out of hope for a romance, but for having a moral compass. I don't think that she should have thought of it of, if I side with Tade, this will be a romance possibly. It should have just been like, my sister is serial killing men and, you know, that's not right. So why didn't I go with this other dude who seems a little bit more stable, although Tade is very shallow. The third thing that I didn't like was something that came up a lot on Goodreads as well. It felt like there could have been more to the story. Because the story is only 200 odd pages, things go by really quickly, which was fine. And Oyinkan does give a lot of context within the chapter, so nothing seems too terribly out of character for any one character. But I do wish that she had gone a little bit more into the backstory of their childhood, or maybe we had seen Ayula do a couple more killings. I just felt like, especially the last quarter of the book, was very rushed, and I wanted more information behind each part, because that's when we started to get really juicy and we were fully invested in the characters that she had created. So that's my last thing that I don't like about this book. I don't have any Goodread critiques because a lot of them were the things that I didn't like about the story, so no Goodreads reviews today in this episode. Before we get into our quotes, I just remembered that I had a question that I wanted to pose to you all. Do you think something was vibing? Do you think there was a kind of connection between Korede and Muhtar? Because I felt like at a very specific point in the book, that's where it was going, and I was like, oh, maybe this is a thing. Did any of you get that feeling? If you did or didn't, leave me a comment down below. Tell me if you got the same vibes that I got. Alrighty, now on to my quotes for this book. Quote number 1. I have found that the best way to take your mind off something is to binge watch TV shows. Yes, it's true, yes, but this also kind of goes back to the quote that I did for maybe you should talk to someone, of how we run away from our problems by going into technology or finding other ways to distract ourselves, whether that's binge watching TV or going on the internet and losing ourselves in YouTube holes or Instagram holes or Facebook holes for hours and hours at a time. But yes, I totally do this. If I ever need to like just zone out for a while, I'm just binge watching a TV show until my mind is completely numb. Second quote. He isn't all that different from the rest of them, you know? He isn't deep. All he wants is a pretty face. That's all they ever want. This line comes from Ayula, and I just thought that that was an interesting thought process. And while I don't necessarily agree with it for everyone, I do think that there are certain people, both male and female, who are only focused on physical attributes instead of personality or intellect. And that's disappointing because I feel like if you're going to find someone that you're romantically interested in, it should be an umbrella of all three of those things and not just predominantly one of those things. So I thought that was a good quote. Maybe it'll wake some of those people up if they're watching this review. Oh, who am I kidding? None of those people are watching this video right now. Finally, would I recommend this book? I'm gonna have a split kind of recommendation on this one. If you are looking for a gripping page turner, you need to set the book away and like think for a little bit, it's too intense, thriller, this is not the book for you. Walk away, no, I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of hype around this book, but it's not that thriller. Actually, I would disagree with the whole thriller genre. I would just say more contemporary fiction with elements of murder, thriller, murder, mystery. Maybe if it had further developed some of those sections, then we could have considered it a thriller, but I don't think it's really in that genre yet. On the other hand, if you are looking for a pleasant, quick read, I think this is a good book. I liked it. I'm very much middle of the row on this one. I would read it again. I probably wouldn't read it again, but I liked it. I think it's a good one-time read. That being said, I did really like Oyinkan's writing style, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what her next novel or book will be. Since this is her first one, I think this was a lot of testing the waters and seeing how her writing style was really going to develop and how she was going to do chapters. So I'm hoping she, for her next project, just feels free to expand on everything a little bit more. I think I don't know what her thought process was, but I can only assume that for her first book it's intimidating and thinking that you're overwriting. But in this case, I think she underwrote a little bit, so I'm excited to see her progress in her writing career, and I'll definitely be keeping my eye on her. Alrighty everyone, that's all I have for you this week. If you have any thoughts on My Sister the Serial Killer, why don't you go ahead and leave me a comment down below. Also, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button, and why not subscribe if you feel like it. If you want to see when I post other videos or next week's video, because I post videos weekly. That's it everyone, all the best always. Bye!